right? So then you are good to go with conducting the this test, the z test, right? But in most of the situations we do not know what is the population standard deviation, right? So you have the sample data, but you will not have access to the population standard deviation. One exception to this one is, as I told you, supposing I have something like 1 second, yeah, it's going on. Supposing you have something like this one, you startup company, and you don't have too much of data, right? You just started a year back, and the volume of the data is not much. It is all in terms of thousands, okay? Then you can take the entire data and you can do the testing. You don't have to estimate, you don't have to conduct the hypothesis testing at all, isn't it? So here, the case of z test, I told you, not only the z test, as part of the introduction to hypothesis testing we discussed about, we take the sample mean, and then with that sample mean we try to estimate the population, right? And draw conclusion whether whatever the manufacturer is clear, correct or not. Supposing you are part of an HR team, it is a startup company, hardly you have 5 to 10,000 employees are there, and right, you are very particular about checking, or you want to test, or the salaries of the managers, present managers salary is same as the past manager's salary. Manager, right, out of 10,000, hardly you have let's 300 managers are there, right? So 300 managers. See, nowadays the companies, right, even Cognizant and TCS, they said they expecting very clearly one manager is supposed to manage 1,000 or 1,000 people, right? So under him, minimum 500 resources they are supposed to manage per manager, right? Senior manager. And so let's assume that hypothetically in a company we have 200 managers and 10,000 employees, but you wanted to test the current manager same as the 5 year before the manager's salary, okay? In that case, out of 10,000, hardly you have 200 managers, right? Taking that 200 thing, and you can simply take an average, and you can draw conclusion. You don't have to conduct this test. If the volume of the data is very high, take for example in the case of Walmart and other things, right? And also certain things you don't have access. For example, you are running a survey, you don't have access to the cars manufactured by the Mahindra. Let's say that you wanted to check the miles per gallon given by, or the Mahindra sports utility vehicle, right? So you cannot contact the Mahindra company or manufacturing unit. You cannot ask them, hey, give me the standard deviation for the miles per gallon given, okay? So they will not give you. If you conduct any survey, something like that, right? It's a population data, and you don't know the competitors thing, right? Or these kind of big company. In that case, what you do is you don't have access to the population data first of all, right? Whatever they claim, say for example, if you buy a car with a sports utility vehicle, you can get 15 miles per gallon. So in that case, you have to literally go by whatever they say, right? But still you cannot ask them what is the average and what is the standard deviation of the miles per given. In that case, we have to go by the population data only, or whatever the claim which they make it. We don't have the population standard deviation. But if you know the population standard deviation, for example, you are the startup company, you have the data, you hardly have 200 managers are there, you can easily find out, right, the mean and standard deviation for population. In that case, you can go for z test. Something which you don't have access, obviously you have to go for t test only. And even if you have access like Walmart, big companies, it's all millions and millions of, or nowadays we have billions of data are available, right? So you cannot take all the data and you cannot do it. It is not required. You'll have to go by sample only. Okay, so as part of z test, you need to know, if you know the population standard deviation, right? When the population sigma is known, then you can go for z test. The first step is null and alternate hypothesis. You need to define it, and then you need to specify the significance level, which is nothing but the alpha value. Alpha is 0.05. In simple term, the alpha is nothing but the this one, the how much risk you are okay to take. Okay, and then right. So the next one is determine the critical region. See, nowadays we don't determine the critical region also. Okay, we simply go by the p-value method. If the p is less than alpha, we reject the null hypothesis. Okay. In case you attend any interview, some customers, if they mandate you to use this one, yes, you can use it. But most of the statistical test, right, software, most of the statistical software, if you see the test, right, it gives only the p value. Okay. Yeah, some cases, yeah, the critical value also you can get it. Okay. But again, right, you should be knowing the critical by looking at the critical value and your this one, the z value, you need to check it. You need to compare these two. It's painful thing. If you look at all, you need to just look at the p value. Just by eyeballing the p value, you will get the instant idea about this one, whether you can reject the null or not. Next step is we calculate the t-test statistic, find the p-value, the sample result in the critical region. If it is falling in the rejection region area, critical region, right, which is nothing but the rejection region area, you are going to reject it, and you conclude that since the sample, the t-test statistic value is falling in the rejection region area, we are rejecting the null hypothesis. If it is not falling in the rejection region area, look here, this is your rejection region area, right? Critical value. And this is where the critical value starts. Anything below this critical value is your rejection region area. If your sample mean is falling somewhere here, that means you are going to reject the null hypothesis. Whatever the statement made by, in this case, the manufacturer was not correct as per my test. And instead of using that, we will be using the p-value method. Right, so p-value, as he told you, you don't have to do anything for it, right? So if you use the statistical software, most of the statistical software, you have function t-test like that, right? In the case of t-test function, all you need to just pass the sample once means sample twos means in case you conduct two sample t-test, right? And then you specify the mean value. That's all, right? It gives you the p-value. Anyhow, we'll see the statistical software, how to conduct these hypotheses using that little later. Okay, at this one, let's try to understand the manual way of doing the t-test, right? Sorry, z-test and t-test, everything. Okay, using p-value method, how we can. So in this case, it's pretty easy. Test statistic value, you simply do a lookup on this table, 1.46. somewhere here, right? So 1 point what value, yeah, 1.46, right? One second. Yeah, my negative 1.46. You need to look at on the negative table. Okay, minus 1.4.6, 0.021, right? This is what my this is the probability for the p-value, right? The probability is 0.07. Okay, but what is the 0.05 for alpha value? Conventionally, we'll be using it, right? Since this one is not less than alpha, since it is greater than alpha, we fail to reject the null hypothesis. In this case, we cannot reject the null hypothesis. We fail to reject the null hypothesis. We simply go by the statement made by the man. Okay, so as per the test conducted, we could see that we failed to reject this null hypothesis. That means whatever the statement made by the manufacturer is true. That is what the z-test is all about. And next one is the two independent sample t-test. 1 second. Let me, before I start, that's why I gave the recap to allow others also to join. Just give me a minute, a second. I'll just check with other guys so that Okay, let's get started with the two independent sample t-test. Sorry, before that, we will continue with single t-test. This is two independent sample t-test. One second, yes, one sample t-test. We discussed about one sample z-test. If you know the population standard, you can conduct the z-test. If you don't know the population standard deviation, what can I do? If I don't know the population, what can I do? That is where we conduct one sample t-test. So what is one sample t-test? If you don't know the population standard deviation, very clear, right? It's very clear. So if you don't know the population, obviously, so this is the test we used to do it conventionally, because most of the time we will not get population standard deviation. That's what some students asked, so the same thing, startup company, all these things, okay? So in that case, yeah, if you have access to the population data, which is very less, then you don't have to conduct the test at all. Fine. So here, when to conduct t-test, if you don't know population standard deviation, okay? And also if the sample size is below 30, okay? 30 or less than 30, right? In that case, you can go for t-test. See, it is not that if you don't know population population standard deviation, you need to conduct the t-test. In addition to this, your sample size should also be less than 30. There are two things here, okay? I don't know population standard deviation, and also my sample size is 30 or less than 30. Right? So in that case, you will have to do t-test. Okay? If the sample size is more than this, then you cannot do t-test. Right? So you must be wondering, we are talking about millions and millions of records, billions of records, and we are dealing with different categories, different brands. Right? So different. Even each category we have multi levels of subcategories of products we are dealing with it. So in that case, working with a sample size less than 30, population standard deviation unknown is fine, but sample size, is it practical? We'll discuss that one later. Okay. So this is the formula for conducting the t-test. Like in the case of z-test, z is equal to sample mean minus the hypothesized mean divided by population standard deviation divided by square root of n. Look here. Here, what is that? Small s. What is small s? Small s, you remember, the sigma is population standard deviation, small s is sample standard deviation. Yeah, so this is the only difference when it comes to the t-test. Otherwise, the formula is more or less same. But here, first of all, we don't know population standard deviation, right? How can you specify the population standard deviation here? Instead, what you do is you take your sample standard deviation and plug in the value here. Okay, so these things, if you remember, that is enough. So what is t-test, right? So t-test, the data, whatever we are using will be like, your t-distribution. Because you are using 30 or less than 30 records in a sample, it will be like a your t-distribution somewhat, the number of samples are closer to 30. Your distribution will be, slightly wider compared to your z-distribution. In the case of z-test, the data will be in z-distribution form. It will be normally distributed, and whereas when it comes to t-distribution, your sample size supposed to be somewhat closer to 30. So hence the distribution will be a bit wider. Please remember, as the sample size increases, right, it will become normal. In the case of z distribution, there is no restriction. You can use 200 or 1000, or you can use 100,000 also as your sample size. As you increase your sample size, it will be approximately normally distributed, right? The distribution will be more normal. That is what I am saying. But here we have restriction, right? 30, close to 30. Number of n is nothing but sample. The sample size is close to 30. That means the distribution will be a bit wider compared to the z distribution. That's what I mentioned. As the number of houses gets larger, the t-distribution shape becomes more and more like the shape of the normal distribution. Right? So when you increase, right? For example, you take only 10 observations or 15. As you keep increase it to 30, right? It will become. So this is what central limit theorem. You remember the central limit theorem. Irrespective of the shape of the data, when you draw a sample randomly close to 30, it will become approximately normally distributed. That is what this says. The t-test also same as z-test, they accept that you cannot use population standard deviation because you don't have it, and the sample size is supposed to be close to 30 only. It should not be more than 30. All these steps are same except the calculating the degrees of freedom. We will directly jump in here. Okay, let's say we take this problem statement. See, as per the historical data, right? You have an historical data. You are an HR person, human resource manager. You want to understand whether the current manager's salary is same as 2 years or 6 years back the manager's salary. So this is simple common sense thing, right? The current manager's salary, or let us say current Java developer salary, definitely more than the 6 years back the Java developer salary. It cannot be same. Though this question, this problem sounds weird, there is a rationale behind this. I don't know how many of you know this one. During the time of Obama, right, the previous US president, when he took over that time, a lot of people, they were the American people, they were out of their job. Okay, and what happened? The companies in USA, they outsource to other countries. That is also another reason for Americans to lose their job. Okay, so what happened? At one point in time, Americans, they are okay to work for whatever the salary the companies are okay to pay them. See, the Americans, they work for hourly basis also, right? So they charge $150, $500, $1,000 also. Some people, they charge it. So because of the cost part, they outsource it to other countries, American companies. Okay, American, they charge for $150, right, for Java development. In India, we charge $30 to $40 only, right? So remaining how much? $40. They charge $150, $110 they can save per person, right? So, but this led many Americans to lose their job. At one point in time, to pay their monthly bill, right? They are okay to join whatever salary you give it. So in that situation, the HR manager, they conducted the test. Whatever the salary drawn by my present Java developer is same as 6 years back, whatever salary we gave it to the Java developer. Okay, now I'll read it out, the problem statement. 6 years ago, indicated the average gross salary for a lead developer was 69,873. Since this data is now outdated, the human HR person, right, wish to test this figure against current salary to see if the current salaries are statistically different from the old ones. Number of samples taken are 12. Okay, 12, and the sample mean, my sample mean and standard deviation, we are aware, right? So you know the sample mean and sample standard deviation, that has been given already. Okay, you don't have to compute it manually. Now the first step is you need to define the null and alternative hypothesis. What is my null hypothesis? Whatever the salary drawn by the present lead developer is same as the 6 years before the salary was drawn by the Java developer, right? We simply go by the whatever the statement, right, which we are made by someone. Okay, the alternative hypothesis, we suspect that it cannot be same, either it could be less or greater than. It's a two-tail test because it is a recession time, right? So the recession time, the salary could be lesser, it could be lesser or it could be more. Okay, so hence it is a two-tail test. The second step is establish appropriate standard and sampling. This is two-tail test. Now we need to specify the type 1 error rate. Alpha is equal to 0.05, but in the case of two-tail test, 0.05 divided by 2, right? 0.025, 0.025, you will get it. Fine, we don't have to compute that one also. Let us directly plug in the value into this test statistic. Sample mean is this one, and then population mean is this one. Sample standard deviation is given here, right? So sample standard 4985 divided by what is the sample size? 12, right? The number of samples taken were 12. Square root, you'll get the t test statistic value is 3.46. Sorry, this one, right? Yeah, 3. It's in the denominator. If you divide by 3.46, and square root of 12 is 3.46, and if you divide this further, you'll get this value. And if you subtract this one, you'll get 2.15. Let's say now my t test statistic value is 2.15. So I know my sample size 12. See, this is something new compared to z test statistic. Okay, here the degrees of freedom. We use a term called degrees of freedom. Degrees of freedom is nothing but number of samples minus 1. You need to subtract 1. Degrees of freedom. If somebody is asking you what is the degrees of freedom, subtract 1 from the sample size. What is my sample size? 12.
I think the value correct.
Yeah, you don't go by literally this one, okay, right? So there is some mistake here. No, we get 2 point. I think the problem is with this one, right?
Yeah.
With this one, yeah. 1 second.
Around 1000.
Yeah, if you divide a number with bigger value, right, it will be very less value. 3.46, 49. Wait, 4985 divided by square root of 12. How much you'll get?
3.46 is
it's correct, right? Yeah, 3.46. Oh yeah, 1440. 1440. How much? 1440, right?
Yeah, 1440.
6.43. No, some other problem. Somehow I correct this older version of my PowerPoint. I corrected it. Let me do one thing. The sample standard deviation 4985, right? 1 second, let me 4985. Yeah, that's correct only. 4985. 1 second. 400. Yeah, square root of 12, right? SQRT of 1 second. Let me just check 1 second. SQRT of 12. 3.46 is correct only, right? So 4985 divided by this value. 1439 only I'm getting it. This one is 1 second. 498 1439 and yeah, 9307. 6.46. 4325. There is a problem here. Actually, it is 2.15 only. And wait. Maybe 79180. Okay, let us assume that the t distribution value is 2.15. I'll tell you, why. Probably let me recheck it once again, right? There is a, issue here. I'll check and come back to, because this value I got it very clearly. Okay, there is some problem. I'll just check about this one. I'll come back to you. Okay, but yeah, 1 second. 4325. If I divide this by 4325, does it comes around this one? Oh, okay. That is the problem. 9307 divided by 4325.79. How much I'm getting it? 2.15. Okay. Let me do one thing. 3.46, right? Yeah, 1 second. 3.46 into 3.46. How much I'll get? 4325, right? Yeah, okay. See, now you got it right. It is supposed to be 14,000. That is the problem. This is not 4, 14,000. Standard deviation is 14,000. Now you check, it will be correct.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, there is a typo here. 14,985. Then it will be correct. Right, so 4325 you'll get it, right? So 3.4, yeah, this one divided by this one you will get 4325, and this one you get 2.5, correct. T is equal to 2.15, the tested is equal to number of samples. Degrees of freedom, you know, subtracting 1 from the sample, you will get degrees of freedom 11. In the case of T distribution, T test also, there is some, see, for T distribution, you have something on T distribution table. For T test, you need to do a lookup on the T distribution table. Okay, there is something called T distribution table. For Z test, you need to do a lookup on the Z distribution table. Okay, the Z distribution table is also called the normal distribution table, right? In the statistics or math book, right, you will find these kind of tables. But here the way we do the lookup is different. Here we need to look at the degrees of freedom, and you need to take the T value. The degrees of freedom is how much? 11. What is the T test statistic value? Here, yeah, we don't have to worry about T statistic also. The degrees of freedom is 11. What is the alpha value? I told you the alpha value is supposed to be
0.
Yeah, use the conventional value.
0.05.
Yeah, alpha is equal to 0.05.
0.025, right? Now we need to check it's
No, total area we are taking, right? We are conducting two-tail test, right? Yeah, 0.05. Sorry, even if it is a left tail or right tail, here the total thing is 0.05, right? So here, or yeah, in the lookup table you have something like one tail is 0.25, two tail 0.05. Let it be there, okay? 0.05 only we will do. Total one we need to look at it. Okay? Degrees of freedom. See, degrees of freedom is mentioned here 11, and then 0.025 is for one tail. We are conducting two tail. Two tail means 0.05. You understood, right? 0.025 plus 0.025 is 0.05. You take into the entire thing, and where these two values are intersecting here, 2.201. So this is how you need to get the critical value. So that
if you're taking one time, right, we can say it gives the same value. If you are taking the same one time, okay, it will be 0.05. Okay, got it.
Yeah, so look here, he is given very correctly, right? So one tail is 0.05, two tail is 0.05. In our case, we are conducting two tail test, right? Look here, two tail. Fine. So in this case, if you do a lookup here, two tail and degrees of freedom is 11, where it is 2.201. 2.201 the right side, left side negative 2.201. Okay.
No, one question here, Satya, right? So if you are taking one time, right, our alpha will be 0.05, right?
No. One tail is 0.025. Yeah, correct. 0.025. Correct.
No, alpha is 0.05, right? One time, if it is taking one time.
No. Alpha is, see, the alpha is the overall. Okay, alpha is the overall.
Yeah, that is
Right?
so
But if you go for the left side, 0.05 divided by 2.
Okay, I got it. There are two tail. I'm just asking for one tail.
Hmm.
What will be the alpha? It will be the 0.05, right?
That's a good question. What he says is, left tail test alone, if I do it, 0.05 only there. Okay, there also 0.05. But in the case of two tail test, that's a very good question. 0.05 divided by 2 only. But in the table, when you do a lookup, right, you need to take into account of this one only.
So if it is one tail or two tail, irrespective of the tail, total alpha will be 0.05.
Yeah.
If you are taking two tail, you have to do
Because that is how he is giving, right? So in the table, two tail 0.05, right? And right. So for one tail, he gives only 0.025. Okay, your doubt is very reasonable because he has given here one tail also, right? Let me just open the Z test score. 1 second. The Z test table. 0 1 second. The z test table, how it is given. See, in the case of z test table, he is not giving one tail, two tail, right? He simply gives the distribution, the t test statistic value. That's all, right? So, for example, if it is a negative value, minus 1.76 we got, right? 1.76 was 0.0392, right? So that is how we take. Here there is no 0.025, 0.05, but when it comes to t distribution table, like you said, yes, whether it is two tail or one tail, the alpha value will be 0.05 only. Okay, that's how we need to use it. Fine, yeah. So that's the one thing. So that's how you got the critical value. So all you need to know is the degrees of freedom only. Right? Alpha is there in our brain, 0.05.
Why we take a degrees of freedom, 12 minus 1? So the sample
That is a rule. That is the rule. That is the rule for t test. Okay. You need to subtract 1 from this. Okay. If you know this much, that is more than sufficient. Okay. Right. So you just think for a t distribution, I will have to subtract 1 from the sample size. Here we are dealing with single sample currently, but if you are having two samples, you need to subtract sample from sample 1, you need to subtract 1, from sample 2 size, right? You need to subtract 1. That we will see it little later. Okay, we are going to jump into two independent sample t tests in a short while. But you just think degrees of freedom is we need to subtract 1 from the sample size, right? Don't think certain things you don't have to know the details, right? You don't have to know in detail. If you know this much, it is more than sufficient. Okay, and now let us look at this degrees of freedom and what is the next step. So 2.20, what is my t statistic value? 2.15. Does 2.15 is less than this one or less greater than this one? If the 2.15 is greater than this one, then it is following the rejection region area. Or if the 2.15 is less than negative 2.20, it is falling here. It is plus 2.15, hence there is no way, right? We can compare with this one. It will not go this side at all. 2.15 is a positive value. Hence you check here. 2.15 is obviously not greater than 2.20.
we are not rejecting here.
Exactly, right? We fail to reject the null hypothesis. We fail to reject the null hypothesis. So in this case, we don't have sufficient evidence to reject the null hypothesis, right? Hence what we are doing is we are going by this one. Yeah, we failed to reject the null hypothesis. Sorry, we failed to reject the null hypothesis. We are going to conclude. What kind of conclusion we make? So we are going to conclude whatever the present salary drawn by the lead developer is same as the 6 year back whatever the salary drawn by the Java developer. That's it. Right. So I have some other assignments. Okay, I will discuss the assignments also tomorrow. Today I was expecting 2 more people also, new people. They did not join, and including Sarnath, he did not join. Anyhow, we will see the assignments. We will work on the assignments tomorrow. Okay, and the next one is 2 independent sample t test. So far we discussed about single hypothesis, single sample hypothesis, whether it's a z test or t test. We discussed about only single sample, right? So we have something else called 2 independent samples. We take 2 independent samples and then we conduct the t test. Based on the outcome of the t test, we draw conclusion. So okay, so this is the one. So to compare the mean value, right? So to compare the mean values of 2 normally distributed populations, draw independent random sample size n1 and 2 from the 2 populations. Okay, estimate the mean value of difference between mu1 and mu2 2 populations. Very simple one. Look here, in this case we are drawing samples randomly from mutually exclusive 2 different populations. For example, this the purchase amount spent by male is one population, purchase amount spent by female, that is another population, right? We randomly draw samples. the male population is obviously different from female population, right? These two are independent of one another. These two independent samples, we are drawing the samples and we are going to compare, or these two samples mean purchase amount is same. Okay, if it is not same, then we are rejecting the null hypothesis, right? We are rejecting null. That is what we are going to conduct the test here. So in this case, we are interested in the difference between two independent groups. We are the difference between two independent groups, sample A minus sample B. So that's what I mentioned here. So population, we use the notation mu1, the mean, right? And other second population mean is mu2. Mu1 minus mu2. That means there is no difference between the amount spent by the male and female. Right? Mu1 minus mu2. If you subtract the mean of this sample from this sample mean, if you get 0, what does it say? Let's say the average amount spent by male is 1000, and the average amount spent by the female is also 1000. 1000 minus 1000 is 0. That means the amount spent by both male and there is no difference between the amount or the purchase made by both male and female, right? That is what it says, mu1 minus mu2, or we can say mu1 is equal to mu2. The alternative way of saying, right, mu1 minus mu2 is equal to 0. Okay, to evaluate the mean difference between two populations, we sample from each population, compare the samples mean on a given sample. Fine. So what kind of assumptions this test is making? See, in statistics, even the case of machine learning, right, there are some algorithms, some statistical tests, including the two independent sample tree. It makes some assumptions. What kind of assumption? The two groups are independent of one another. The sample, whatever you draw, right, it is from two different groups altogether. So male population, female population. Yes, fine. In this case, these two groups are the sample, whatever we are going to draw randomly is from two different groups altogether. The dependent variable is normally distributed. What do you mean by dependent variable? Purchase amount. Okay, purchase amount is the dependent variable. Okay, fine. So the two groups have approximately equal variance on the dependent variable. Male group, female group, and the dependent variable, I said amount spent or purchase amount spent. The variance need not be always same, right? What is variance? If you square the value of standard deviation, that is what your variance. You remember I discussed about sigma squared. Sigma squared is nothing but variance, right? You remember, because the variance we'll be discussing it even in the case of machine learning algorithms. Okay, this is called your variance. Okay. Sigma squared is variance. This is what I'm talking. The variance of your population 1 and variance of your population 2 need not be same, right? Though they say the two groups have approximately equal variance, approximately they use this variance on the dependent variable, but the violation of this has been shown to be unimportant. Okay, we can simply ignore this assumption just because they say the three assumptions or whatever, right? Need not to be all the three assumptions or 4 assumptions has to be met. Okay, sometimes certain things you can probably ignore it. Okay, but these two assumptions are mandatory. Okay, the two groups are independent of one another. There is no exception. Okay, you have to follow this rule. The dependent is normally distributed. Now the question, if it is not normally distributed, what can I do? Then you cannot conduct this test, right? It is normally distributed. So why? How do you say it is normally? How do you make sure it's normally distributed? Let me see your answer. Kumar, can you tell me, Kumar or somebody? Right. So how do you make sure that the two dependent variable is normally distributed? Bell curve. Bell curve. Okay. So let's say the purchase amount, the average purchase amount given is let's 1200. They did not give you the entire sample data. Simply they say, hey, you need average, right? So to conduct this test, you need the sample size. The next step is you need the mean purchase amount, and standard deviation will give you. Then if they give you the mean upfront, how can you how will you know it's normally distributed or not? It's a very clever question.
Based on sample size.
Super, right? Okay, what do you mean by based on sample size? Can you tell me?
Is greater than or equal to 30 sample size.
Yeah, less. Yeah, close. They are 30, right? 30, right? 30 and above. Correct. Yeah, 30 is right. So here, what is the sample size here? Oh, okay. I have not yet sorted the problem. If the sample size is 30 and 30, right? Somewhat 30 or above, right? It is normally distributed. Fine. Very good. So we will jump onto this exercise now. So here we are conducting. Let's let's say the market research company, they hired some staffs, and they wanted them to run a survey with both Walmart and Target customers randomly. Okay, the staffs, right? They were standing some days in front of Walmart, and some days they standing in front of the Target, and randomly they called each customers when they come out, right? When they walked out from the mall, they go and contact them. Sir, excuse me, sir, can I get a few minutes of your time? Okay, right? So they randomly surveyed 85 customers, Walmart customers, and randomly they surveyed 80 customers of Target. Okay, and as per the survey, right, done by them, the mean amount spent by Walmart customers are $45. 1 second. The mean amount spent or the mean purchase amount of the Walmart customers are $45. Okay, oh, it is in that mode, right? Okay, that is the problem. Yeah, so it is in the point mode, right? $45, right? The mean amount spent by Walmart customers was $45, and the average amount spent by the Target customers, right, for this sample size is $53. The standard deviation is different here, right? Obviously the standard deviation will be differing, right? So one sample to another sample, though these samples need not to be same, right? Here reasonably it was closer, 80 and 85 the sample size, and but here when they took the average or amount spent by 85 customers, they got $45. The same thing is applicable here. The variance is this one. The first step to conduct the two independent sample test, you need to define the null and alternative hypothesis, similar to the way how you conduct the single sample T test or C test. What is the null hypothesis? Both Walmart and Target customers, the amount spent by them was same. There is no difference between the amount spent by both Walmart and Target customers. Instead of defining this, right, we can say this way also. Correct. Mu1, if you bring the mu2 on the left side, it will become negative, right? Mu1 minus mu2 is equal to 0. That means there is no difference between or significant difference between the amount spent by both the Walmart and the Target customers. The alternative hypothesis, what it says is there is a significant difference. Okay, it is not equal. Okay, sorry, it is not equal. It is not equivalent to here it is, there is significant between the two, right? So this one supposed to be HA. Alternative hypothesis, mu1 is not equal to mu2. There is a significant difference between the two. It cannot be seen, right? Okay, now I'll ask you the question. By looking at this values, why can't we draw a conclusion saying that, hey, obviously the target, the average amount spent by the target customers are more than this one. Then why should I define a null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis? Why should I conduct the alternate hypothesis? Just by seeing this, we can understand, right? Tell me, why do I need to go ahead and conduct the hypothesis test?
One is sample mean, another is population mean. So we need to do a test to identify the population.
One is sample mean, other one is what do you mean by other one is population mean?
Like
Population mean you don't know, right?
Yes.
Very good. Okay.
So So we cannot judge with a sample mean saying like it is higher more.
Correct, correct. And the standard deviation also varying, right? It is not same. Mean is different, but the standard deviation also varying, right? So in that case, obviously, yeah, we don't know the population mean, like you said, correct. The next one is the mean. This one, the standard deviation also differing, right? So in that case, obviously, we need to statistically prove that. So when it comes to statistics, right, you need to prove it statistically everything. When the case of business, right, if you prove it statistically, then there is a rationale behind this. Simply go by literally go by this sample value, you cannot draw it, because this one sample, different sample will have different thing. If I run a survey with different group of 85 people, it will be differing. And also standard, that's why the standard deviation also we are using it here, right? So for that reason also we need to prove it statistically. So what is N1? See, here we have two samples, hence I call this one N1, I call this N2. N1 is 85, N2 is 80. And what is X1? X1 is 45. Actually this is X1 bar, okay, this is X1 bar, X2 bar. Instead of saying X bar is sample mean, right? X1 bar is 45, X2 bar is 53, and S1 is equal to 21. The sample 1's standard deviation is sample 2 standard deviation is this one. Now we need to compute the degrees of freedom, because we don't know the population standard deviation. That is the reason we are conducting the t-test, and also we have two samples here. Each sample you need to subtract 1. You need to subtract 1 from each sample. Okay, 85 minus 1 plus 80 minus 1 plus, you need to add these two things together, you will get your degrees of freedom is 163. Okay, what is the next step? The next step is to infer about the average purchase amount of Walmart and the average purchase amount of Target. The following condition to be. What are the assumptions? Two groups are supposed to be independent. That is meeting, right? Walmart and Target, these two groups are different. It is not same company, right? Independent assumption is made. Okay, fine. What is the other assumption? Samples of each group of customers greater than 30. So it can be stated that the sampling distribution of mean purchasing amount of each group approximately normally distributed. So since these two conditions are meeting, then we are good to go with conducting the student t-test. But in this case, it is using different formulas, because we have two samples, right? We call this a pooled t-test, right? Pooled t-test. So there is some formula for this pooled standard deviation of purchase from the Walmart and Target. So yes, pooled. So square root of this is the formula, N2 minus sample 2 minus 1, and standard deviation of the second sample, you need to square it, plus first sample minus 1. This is the degrees of freedom of your first sample. This is the second sample, okay, and then standard deviation of your first sample, S1 square, correct only.
Sample 2 minus 1 into variance. Like this, that you are adding sample 1 minus 1 into sample 1 variance.
Yeah, sample 1 minus 1 into variance, correct, into variance, you are correct, very good, right? Variance divided by, right? So divided by these values, N1 plus N2 minus 2.
Degrees of freedom.
Yeah, degrees of freedom for both, because for this one and you need to subtract this, right? You need to add these two things and you need to subtract these two.
So these degrees of freedom, it is also coming under the square root, right? Not the
Sorry, yeah, it comes under the square root only. Yeah, so there is a problem here. Yeah, so this one divided by, instead of saying this, right? Yeah, what you're saying is square root of N1 plus N2 minus 2. So that's what you can see it here also, right? So after you plug in the values, inside the square root I mentioned, because of the notice. See, that time due to I asked someone to prepare, they don't know how to use the formula editor. Ideally this should have been used in formula editor. Anyhow, so so you can, if you look here, you will understand. So 80 plus 85, Target Walmart is 85 and Target is 80. You're subtracting 2 and the square root, you get the value. The pooled the standard deviation, pooled standard deviation. You need to find out the pooled standard. This is called your pooled standard deviation. In the case of two independent sample t-test, you need to conduct the pooled you need to find out the pooled standard deviation. Yeah, the next one is the standard error of the difference in the mean purchase amount of Walmart and Target. So for this, already we computed the the pooled standard deviation, right? You need to multiply the pooled standard deviation with this value 1 divided by n plus 1. So what is this one? 20.056. We already computed. So standard pooled into the square root of this one to get the standard error. We have something of standard error, right? Mean purchase of Walmart. So 20.056 into square root of 1 divided by 80 plus 1 divided by 85, you get 3.84, 3.124. And the test statistics formula is different here. Because here we have two samples, x2 bar minus x1 bar divided by standard error pooled into x2 minus. Simply you plug in this value in the denominator. And this one is 53 minus 45. My sample 2 is 53, and my sample 1 is 45. I just plugged in here 53 minus 55, and this is my hypothesized mean value, right? The sample, the population mean minus hypothesized mean of my population minus hypothesized mean of my second population is 0, okay? And 3.124 and 2.156. You get 2.5. Yeah. What is it?
One question here, when you're calculating that spooled error, right? So you are mentioning that x2 minus x1 bar.
Yeah.
But you are mentioning you did not add, you not square root that x1 or x2 bar, but you are saying instead of that you are taking population. Sample size. Why so? The above thing that AC pool pool in the x2 minus x1 bar.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This one's supposed to be standard error pool. Yeah. See this one. See standard error of.
But I'm saying that after equal to right, you said yes.
You are talking about right side, right? Right hand side, right?
This pool. Why you did not mention that average value is not you put square root of 1 by sample 1 plus 1 by sample 2.
1 by sample 1 plus 1 by sample 2. Oh, why you did not put here, right? Is that what you're saying?
No, my question is right. Instead of you in that after equal right, you are putting sample value, but you did not put that average value there because it's mentioning x2 is that average, right? I mean that the mean value.
x2. Oh, okay. Understood. See, your question is, see, my understanding, right, about your question is, here you mentioned standard error pool, okay, and into x2 bar minus x1 bar. You mentioned x2 bar minus, but why it is not x2 bar minus x1 bar, right? That is what your question. See, when you multiply, see here, it gives you the different meaning. Standard error, the pooled standard deviation of these two samples, right? That is what it says. It is not, don't literally go by the left side, okay? Right? The left side is nothing but to find out the standard error for these two, right? You need to use this equation. You think that way here, right? I understood. See, that's what I was trying to say earlier, right? When you repeated the second time, right? I understood before, the first time itself I understood. Okay, so simple thing is to find out the standard error of the difference in mean purchase amount, right? So for this one, standard error of the difference in the mean purchase amount of both these samples is to obtain this, you need to use this equation. Right, it is not a derivation of this one, okay? You understood, right? Yeah. So the standard pooled error is, we know, right? So this 20.056, just plug in the value, and this is the one, 1 by 80 plus 1 by 85, 3.24. Right? This is the formula, okay? So this is the formula, and fine, yeah, and 3.124. Next step is test statistics. Simply, yeah, as I told you, right? So 53 minus 45. 45, right? Yeah, 53 minus 45 divided by 3.24, you get 2.56. But we have the degrees of freedom, right? The degrees of freedom is 163 and alpha value is 0.05. There is a different table for, okay, I did not put the table here. Any of you don't have to worry about the table also, because we don't use the tables. Here what we do is we use the function in R and Python. I use the function in R and Python. I just mentioned the sample 1's mean and sample 2's mean. All you need to do is, you have something called t-test function. First argument is your sample 1, second argument is sample 2's mean. Sample 1 mean, sample 2 mean, you need to tell, that's it. And then you need to tell the mean value is 0, right? Something like that, okay? Mu is equal to 0, that's it. It will give you the p-value. So this one I got it from my statistical software. It gave me upfront 0.011. All I have to do is I need to tell my sample size also, sample size plus I need to pass the argument of the sample 1 mean comma sample 2 mean and the n1 and n2 value. That's all. It gives you the p value. So is this p value less than alpha? Yes. Alpha is 0.05, p is 0.01, 0.01 is less than 0.05, hence we reject the null hypothesis. So there is a sufficient evidence to believe that the mean purchase and volume is not same.
So here we are rejecting the null hypothesis.
Yes, because the p value is less than alpha, right? We are rejecting the null hypothesis. We are rejecting the null hypothesis and we are going to conclude, obviously, the mean purchase amount of both these customers, right, is not same. It is different, right? So let's say, supposing this value is 52, right? 52 is somewhat closer to 53. So do you think the hypothesis test, in the hypothesis test, the p value will be greater than alpha? Again, standard deviation, right? We need to, because in the case of two independent sample t-test, we need to take into standard deviation also, right? Because of though the mean values are same, the deviations are there, right? $21 is different, right? There is a variation. So in that case, that is also the reason why we rely the statistical outcome. We draw a conclusion based on the test, hypothesis. We cannot simply, understood, right? The intention of my explanation here. If you say $52 here, that doesn't mean these two are the same, but variation is there. What do you mean by variation? What is standard deviation tells us? Volatility, inconsistency. Some customers, they spend $45, some customers, they spend $50. Some customers, they spend $5. Too much of volatility, inconsistency is there, right? Here also inconsistent, but the here somewhat consistent is there, but here it is not consistent. Higher the standard deviation, higher the deviation, higher the inconsistency. You understood, right? You remember, you just relate with that example, the courier company, delivery time, right? Though the mean is same, that doesn't mean both of them are doing good job, right? We take a conclusion in that case based on the standard deviation only. Okay, both of their average delivery time is same, but still I am getting complaint, right? Average fine, but variation. Sometimes they they took 6 days also, 5 days also, just because of you have more number of less low values, 111. Most of the time they deliver in 111 day only, because of you have, let's take one simple example. You have your sample size is 10, right? In your sample size 10, 8 values are 1111 only. The remaining 2 values only 5 and 6. If you take the average, how much you will get, right? So let's say 6 and 4, right? 10 plus 8, 18 divided by 10, how much? Your average is 1.8 only. But when you take the standard deviation with this, right, and you put all 3, the average is 3 and the variation is 0, right? Whereas in this case, right, 8 ones, but only 2 observed data points, you have 4 and 6, right? It will show the variation. There is a variation here. That means it is not consistent. Hope you remember, right? Okay, I don't have to repeat again. So here it says there is a variation. Here there is a variation. Okay, the next question is, if it is $52 and $53 and if the variation is somewhat same, do I need to conduct the hypothesis still?
Yes, sir. Yeah. We don't know the populations.
Very good. Still we have to conduct. Statistically we have to prove it, right? We have to prove it statistically because we are relying only on the but in that case what will happen, right? Here in this case we rejected the null hypothesis, but here you will not be rejecting the null hypothesis. You will be saying right, both of their mean amount spent is more or less close because the variations are somewhat close and this one is also close, right? You will not get. That is the thing. You can try with that one. Okay, probably you can put for 40, 50 and 53 and here you put 18, something like that. Okay, and plug in the values and check. That is one simple assignment for you, right? You just test it with this one. So it will be more or less same only, right? Sorry, the amount spent both by even your hypothesis test, you will fail to reject the null hypothesis. If the difference is more, right, the mean difference is more between the two things, right, obviously you will be rejecting the null hypothesis. This is a common phenomenon, okay? And if the mean values are somewhat closer, right, then you will not be rejecting the null hypothesis. That's a common phenomenon. But again, standard deviation also matters. See, in the case of single sample, we can say single sample t-test, if this sample mean, we are taking only one sample. My sample mean is somewhat closer to my population mean. You try that one also. Most likely, right, or less likely you are going to reject the null hypothesis. You are going to accept the null hypothesis if the sample mean and population is somewhat closer. Okay. But even in the case of one sample t-test also, we are using standard deviation, right? But that is one thing. You just try that one also. Okay. So far we discussed about two independent sample t-test. Now I am going to talk about. Just give me a second. I'm getting a call. Hello. Okay. Sorry. So we are going to talk about two sample t-test only, but in this case these two samples are dependent, right? In the previous case, two different population, we have drawn these samples, male and female, or target customer and Walmart customers. Yeah, here the same. In the case of paired sample t-test, it is also called as a dependent sample t-test, because the two samples are dependent, right? One sample is dependent on another sample, and it is also called as a paired sample t-test. So here we are dealing with a single population, okay? But my sample B is depending on my sample A, right? So here also we are comparing the means to compare two population means in the case of two samples that are correlated, okay? And here the two populations nothing but the same population here, okay? And when to use paired sample t-test? If you want to conduct before or after studies. Let's say let's say I am an obese guy. My body weight is 110 kg. Okay, 110 or 140 kgs. Like WWE champions, right? 110 or 140. I want to reduce my body weight. I joined a program conducted by VLCC. You know VLCC, right? I joined the program. Like me, along in my batch, like me, 10 more people joined. The objective is we want to reduce the weight in 6 months' time. VLCC, I have to pay some money for them to help me to reduce my body weight. Right? All my entire batchmates' objective is same as mine. Right? Okay, so now what happened? We started going to VLCC on a daily basis, and we strictly follow the instructions and diet recommended by them strictly. And after 6 months, they are taking our body weight again. The day one, they noted down my entire batch members' body weight, and after 6 months also they are measuring the body weight. What is the difference between before and after? You saw many cosmetic advertisement, right? Before applying this cream, what is your face color? And after applying the face cream, what is your face color, right? So before, after pictures they put it. Same way, before and after they conduct some study to find out are there any improvement in your body weight, or are there any decrease in your body weight after 6 months, right? When you go and measure your body, now if you see your body weight drastically reduced, then that means the training program was effective, right? So before and after studies, only in that kind of situation will be conducting the paired sample t-test. And what are the assumptions this test makes? So only the matched pairs can be used to perform the test. Here you cannot use independent samples. The samples must be dependent, because after 6 months, when they review my body weight, right? So they compare my body weight after 6 months with my prior body weight. The day one when I subscribed or enrolled for the program, whatever right, they compare the current weight with the past weight. Normal distributions are assumed, same as the other tests. You just remember this one is applicable for all tests. Simply blindly normal distributions are assumed. Even in the case of Z distribution, t-test, one sample t-test or independent sample t-test or paired t-test, normal distribution should be assumed. Okay, and the variance of samples is equal. But this also, as I told, right, you can relax. This assumption can be relaxed. Not necessarily always it is equal the variance. The cases must be independent of each other. Yes, this is important. The cases, as I told you, cases, statistician, they use this term. Cases nothing but the records. Cases must be independent of each other. Let's say my body weight should be different from your body weight, right? Obviously, my body weight is nowhere related to your body weight, right? Yes, obviously, we need to take the data, and only the matched pairs can be used to perform the test. Only thing that this one can be relaxed. It need not be same. Okay. Now, let us look at it. Is there a significant difference in student score when taught through online and classroom training? Let's say we are training the students. See, nowadays because of corona, right, online training is happening. Now a teacher wants to evaluate whether the students are faring well in the exam. What is the effectiveness of the mode of the training? Right? So which one will determine the training program? Or score, right? Marks. How do you judge whether online training or classroom training is better? Based on their score. Now you tell me which one is dependent variable and independent variable. This is very important. Please note it down. Dependent variable and independent. In this case, which one is dependent variable? Very good, right? Dependent variable is score, because the score depends on the mode of the training. Right? Mode of the training, because still people are very good in classroom training. Anyway, I don't want to generalize on that one. Okay, so the dependent variable is score. What is an independent variable? What is a dependent? What is independent variable here?
Mode of training.
Very good, right? A dependent variable is score, because the score is depends on this one, the online or classroom. Some students they may score more on online, some students they score more on classroom. We wanted to know whether the score is depending on online or classroom. Hence, score is the dependent variable. It is depending on the type of the training, the mode of the training. What is independent? Why it is called independent variable? Online, both are?
Two different genres, online and classroom.
Yeah,
They are not influenced each other. It is not changing by any other mean.
excellent. It is not influencing the thing, right? Any other thing, right? It is not influenced by any other things, right? Online and classroom training, right? So hence it is called independent variable. And now you tell me which one is independent dependent variable.
Where it is the difference?
Very good.
Dependent variable. Where is the dependent variable? And mode of exercise. Not.
Exercise, right? You can say
Exercise is a
pre and post exercise, or exercise. We can say independent variable is exercise, pre-exercise and post-exercise. Right? These are the independent variable, right? Weight is continuous variable, right? So weight is continuous variable. Continuous is numerical variable, right? Yeah. Yeah, when it comes to paired t-test and all, right, and even in the two independent sample t-test, the dependent variable is your numerical value only. Okay, dependent variable. So like I said, right, purchase, the amount spent by the customer. See, the formula itself, mu1 minus mu2 equal to 0, right? You cannot subtract the text from text. When it comes to hypothesis test, the dependent variable is in general numerical value. Fine. So okay, now let us take one simple case study and then we will understand, we'll conduct the test. Okay, I'll directly, instead of reading this problem statement, I directly jump in here. See here, in this case, I'll just give you the quickly I give you the context here. Okay, what test are we going to conduct here? Okay, so here we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 students are there. Okay, 12 students. We have given the training. So before training, what is their productivity? After training, what is their productivity? Right. Supposing in my team I have 12 developers are there, and we don't see much productivity. We found there is a skill gap here or skill mismatch. What we thought, probably if we arrange some crash course, right, do they perform well? We arrange a training. After attending the training, what is their productivity, right? So are there any difference in before and post training when it comes to productivity? That is what we need to conduct the test. That is what this entire paragraph says. Okay, so here when it comes to paired t-test, right? So see, look here, I just copy pasted here, and what you need to find out the difference between post training minus the before training. Okay, 62 minus 50 is 12 and 40 minus 42 is minus 2. We found the difference between the post and pre, okay, before training, right? So and then what I did, I added all these values. See here, negative values are there, still we added all these values. The next thing what we did, just because we had negative value, right, we need to square them. We squared it, we got some value. This also we need to take into account, this also we need to take into account. Fine. So fine. The thing is here, the formula for the test stat is this one: t is equal to d bar divided by standard deviation divided by square root of n. Right, here the standard deviation you cannot get it just like that, since you have two different samples, right? Though yeah, you have two samples here, the dependent and the dependent samples, right? Since you have two samples, the way of computing the standard deviation is different. And see, this is the formula. Okay, for d bar you need to find out this way, and standard deviation you need to find out using this equation. For d bar, right, so the sum of all the difference, is what is that? 96, right? This is the 96, right? and divided by number of samples 12. So you get 8 here. Fine. You got the d bar value. The numerator value we got it as 8. I just plugged in here. In the denominator, right? So in the denominator standard deviation. Standard deviation how I computed here using this formula. So d2, what is d squared? 96 squared divided by n minus 1. Yeah, minus, see here the d squared, right? Sum of d squared divided by n into n minus 1, n into n minus 1. So here square root of 112. See here this d squared is nothing but this one, right? This one.
96 square or sum of all the digits.
It is 96 square.
Yeah, this is 96 squared, correct, 96 squared. That's why I put the, the parenthesis here. Right? Yeah. The sum of the difference, right? Sum of the difference, right? Yeah. So here this one is this d squared, sum of d squared is this one. And here what you do is the distance, the d columns, you square it, 96 squared divided by n into n minus 1, right? So this is the formula. You got this value 5.673. And we simply plug in that value, this value here, right, in the denominator, and square root of 12, total number of samples are 12, we got 4.885, and the degrees of freedom is how much? 11, and alpha by 2, right? Since we have we conduct the two-tailed test, alpha value is this one, and critical value is 2.20 and 2.20, and t value is 2.20, right? So yeah, 2.0 is more than the critical value. T value t value is 4.885, right? 4.885, and the critical value is 2. Yeah, the t value is more than the 2. Yeah, it should be something like something. The way I phrased is not correct, right? So t value is more than the 2.20. We are rejecting the null hypothesis, saying that there is a difference. There is a difference, in productivity, before and after training.
We are not rejecting here, right? Are we rejecting here?
Yeah, we are rejecting it because the t value. See, I mentioned that the critical value is 2.20, and the t value is 4.85. Obviously, the 4.4 is greater than 2, right? Look here. So here it is something.
No. We will be accepting the H
No,
naught.
it is not in the rejection area.
We will be accepting the H naught, but that will be the negative statement, like that.
Yeah, see on the left side, minus 2.20, right? So 2.20, right? So 4.885 is beyond this, right?
We are using two times, right? Two times thing, then it will be on the right side.
Yeah, because we are getting the positive value. 4.885 is greater than this one, hence it is falling on the right side of 2.20.
Yes, we are rejecting.
See, had we got 1.10, right? It is not beyond this one, right? It is inside the border. It is something like India border and Pakistan border. This guy is in the Pakistan border, right? So 1.1 is in India border, non-rejection region area. This is non-rejection, this is rejection region area. Hence, we reject the null hypothesis. Since the t-test value is above the critical value, look here, yeah, I mentioned clearly, right? The 2.4.8 is above this one. We are rejecting the null hypothesis. We are going to conclude that there is a difference in performance after giving the training. It is not same, right? So there is an improvement. To conclude, right, to summarize, in the case of one sample t-test, we are, as the name says, right, we are using a single sample. It is used in measuring whether a sample value is significantly different from the hypothesized value. Independent sample t-test, it is used in comparing the means for two different groups. We have taken two different samples altogether. In the case of paired samples, we have taken the dependent samples, right? So that is what the difference between these are. So it's very clear, right? So one sample t-test, we have only one sample. We are not comparing two different populations mean, or we are not comparing the dependent samples or population. Very clear here. Independent samples, obviously the samples which you have drawn, which you are drawing, supposed to be from two different population, right? The paired sample is the before and after thing, right? So there is a dependency between the sample B and sample A. Okay, now the question is, if I have more than two groups, what can I do? If I have more than two groups, you cannot conduct hypothesis test. You cannot conduct hypothesis test. Okay, sir. In that case, see, in my business scenario, I have to come. Let's say in America, we have divided logically the entire USA as 10 different regions to ease our operations, right? 10 different regions or 10 different branches. Let us assume that way. Okay, each branch sale is different. So in that case, how can I compare? I have more than 10 branches. That means 10 different groups are there. So what kind of test can I do? Can I run the independent sample t test on, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. 10? Right? So can I run the independent, because the hypothesis test supports only two samples, right? So I conduct one test by comparing these two, and comparing these two I conduct another test 2. So 10 different samples, right? You will end up conducting more number of independent sample t test. Two independent sample t test. Actually, it's a two independent sample t test. Okay. So in that case, you need to conduct multiple tests, right? And also, if you use alpha equal to 0.05 for each and every test, what will happen? You will not get a holistic idea. Your confidence level will go down. 1 minus 0.05 for the first test is 0.95, right? You will get 0.95, and 0.05 into 0.05 into 0.04, right? You will get, your confidence level goes down. You will not get holistic idea. That is where you have something called ANOVA test. ANOVA stands for analysis of variance. Analysis of variance. Using ANOVA test, you can compare more than two groups means. Though it says variance, right? That is what many people they get confused. Even in the case of analysis of variance, we compare the means across groups, more than two groups. Okay. So what we will do, since Sarnath and other two people also did not join, right? We will continue the ANOVA test tomorrow, right? You just go through on this, and tomorrow we will continue with ANOVA test and chi-square test. And in ANOVA itself, we have something called one-way ANOVA, two-way ANOVA with replication, two-way ANOVA without replication, and we have something else called chi-square test. And post the chi-square test, we'll work on the assignments. Okay, the confidence interval and hypothesis testing related assignments, some quizzes, right? That will help you to understand the concepts more.
Sure.
All right, so fine. So we'll upload the video right after this session. Give me some more time. Okay, we'll upload it, but you will get notification as soon as I upload it. You can watch this video. Yeah.
Actually, after I used your credential of login, it's again showing a login in the home page, whether it is logged or not.
Same for me.
Yeah. This guy, they made some changes to this. 1 second, let me just check here. I thought of telling you about this one also today. Okay, yeah, here when you click here, right? So what is this one? SHRE SHRE. 1 second. What is it? SHRE. 1 second. Let me enable this I so that I can see SHRE. Yeah.
SHR Y SHY exclamation 2 3.
1 2 3 right? Exclamation 2 3, right? Let me
Yeah.
just remember me.
After this, when you will ask for
Yeah.
Yeah, login page it will go. One
No,
sec.
no, no. It is
Oh,
saying you are logged in already.
one second, one second. You need to go here, right? Let me see if you click here.
Full stack data science.
And you need to click continue here. But yeah, that there is a problem here, right? So okay. I was telling this developer somewhere. See, when we allow them to make changes, right? They create new problems. So are you able to log in now? Why don't you try side by side with me?
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying it.
All of you, please.
Use one sample t-test.
C test and one sample T test. Yeah, there is a good that you notice this one. I'll have to tell this guy. So here, if I click this one,
How you came here?
no, don't confuse. See, this is the new format. Okay, I'll just look here. Yeah, the login is not visible, right? Okay. So it is not here. Yeah, you should be. It should display. Okay. Maybe we change the color here, but still that avatar should come here. Oh yeah, he made some mistake here.
Yeah,
It is actually logging in, but for you, it will be confusing whether you logged in successfully or not,
yes.
right? Earlier that was there because we changed the design. See what we are doing is I'll just show you this one. We are making some design changes to when it comes to look and feel, somewhat like this. Okay, so I asked them to make changes everything, and while making changes, I think this guy made some mistake there. Yeah, so I knew good that you even I did not notice this. But when I log in with 1 second, when I logged, maybe I think today he messed it up. Since when you noticed this issue from yesterday itself, right?
Today after you shared the credentials, right? I started today I logged in.
Yesterday I shared the credentials, right?
Yeah. Today I logged in to verify it how it works.
Maybe today only he made this. Yesterday it was working fine. 1 second. Yeah, let me.
So it says login, right? How to go to the courses there now?
Let me go here.
Satish, we have to select full stack.
Yeah, I tried it. When I click on that, right, it says that logged in already.
Now I'm able to see that.
1 second. Let me just see where the problem is. Okay. Here on top it shows the login detail. Maybe this is my admin login. Okay, you cannot log in with that. 1 second.
You will be creating a credentials for us, right? Every individual account.
Yeah. We'll do it because some issue. Okay, we are not able to. The problem is right when we started, making some decent look and all, right? So what happened somewhere? It is they are not testing it properly. So 1 second, Shreya was right. We will retest it 1 second. Shreya, you will get some WordPress kind of thing, and then if you log in here, let me see here. Yeah, you can see the content, but yeah, here it is not on top. It should visible, right? Yeah, it is not there.
First tab itself.
No. Here, if I click, but here if I click it, yeah, it goes here. Yeah, good point. Okay, I will just inform him now itself. Okay.
So instead of just saying login, right?
Yeah, so ideally, like I showed you, right? 1 second. I showed you with my admin account. This is my admin account. 1 second. See, it shows signed out. That means this is the sign that you logged in. Ideally, it should show the avatar. Earlier, it used to show the avatar. Since I requested these guys to change the design, everything, right? See, this is my admin login ID. If I log in here, let me do one thing. If I do this, Yeah, let me reach. Ideally, yeah, it should go up there. So one more layer should be there, right? Yeah, just above this bar. This one should come here, right? So you look here, like this is my avatar. You understood, right? Sask and Rams. It should come like this. But here, yeah, it should come here. I'll inform him. Yeah, don't worry. Okay, I'll just I'll fix this issue. Okay, good that you pointed out. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
After login, you can remove the login label.
Yeah, it was like this only. See, after login, what will happen, right? Like this only it will display. Yeah, here also it should not be there. Yeah, even in the case of admin, it should not be there. Very good, very good, very good. Thank you, thank you. Thanks a lot for the.
We just started testing her.
Yeah, you are testing, right? No one can escape from testing team. Good, good, good. Yeah, yeah. Good observation. Very good. I'll just catch hold of these people. Okay. So that's what, right? So see now, I think Satish, Satish, right? You are able to log in, right?
Yeah, I'm able to log in.
Yeah. Only confusion is that one, right? So here, if you click the logo, it will take you to the home page because you are testing people, right? So I don't tell all these things. Once you go to the home page and select this course, okay, and go here, full stack data science master. That's why I sent this link to you all. So other things are, you may not be having access, but still, we are supposed to remove the content from each. That's what others friend asked. Satya, the DevOps, I don't see any content there. I see it same as this one. We are working on it, okay, and we'll replace everything. Just now, recently, we made changes to the website, okay. And just 1 week back, we started doing this one. So course content will be differing for different courses, and you are this one, okay, right? You will be, but at any cost, you will be able to have an access to this one, okay. And you can go here and see there, and if you go there, you will find the assignments, the course study material, everything. But it is a lifetime access. The plan is we keep as and when we make changes to the PowerPoint or any content, right, it will be updated. You will get most up-to-date information from our website. But still, from the machine learning, I made a lot of changes that will go into this website shortly. All the latest changes which we made it, right. See, the whole idea is you want to add more content, relevant more content, so that when they see the PowerPoint, they are not supposed to go to any other website for reference. It's kind of a one-stop shop. That's the whole idea. So as and when I update the everything, you can say. And videos also, certain courses it will not be there, certain course it will be there, but hypothesis testing and all it is there. Okay, you can check it out. And Python, certain videos will not be there. And during the session, whatever I recorded, I will share it, okay, and I will share it. That is more than sufficient for you, okay. Python or thing.
Any log for updating content, whether it will be helpful by the company. If you are log, right, if you go and check there, you can take changes in the daily.
Yeah, there is version control. I am maintaining it here, okay, but at any point in time, right? So let's say you are for your batch. If I make any changes, let's say hypothesis testing, if I make any changes, right, then what I'll do is I'll tell you upfront, okay. So these are the changes. It is different from what you see there, okay. And then, but in the website you don't see any log and all.
So I'm asking, right, so maybe in our batch we might have.
Yeah, there are students, they told me, Satya, the PowerPoint, what you are showing is different from what is there here, okay. So that one we addressed it. But when it comes to machine learning, still, yeah, I have to agree that still it is not on par with the current version, okay. But version control, I don't maintain it. But I'm tracking on myself, okay. I'm tracking from my side. Whatever things are outdated one, I'm updating it, okay. You can go by my word, okay. You can count on my word, okay. Yeah, good observation. Yes, this somehow I missed out. Fine. All right, thank you. Right, so we will circle back tomorrow. We'll continue with the other things. Okay, fine. Yeah, bye.
Thank you.
So have a good day. See you.